Welcome to the AI Energy and Climate Podcast, a special series from the DSR Network hosted by David Sandalow.
Hi, I'm David Sandalow, and this is the AI Energy and Climate Podcast. AI tools are starting to transform the way that electric utilities do business, although the speed at which that's happening varies a lot from region to region. One leader in this space is Octopus Energy, the United Kingdom's largest supplier of electricity to domestic customers, which developed an AI-enhanced operating system for utilities that it calls Kraken. Nick Chaset is the CEO of Octopus Energy US and Executive VP of North America for the Octopus Energy Group. He came to that role last year after serving as CEO of Ava Community Energy and top jobs at the California Public Utilities Commission and California Governor's Office. I recently had the chance to talk with Nick about Octopus, Kraken, AI, and changes coming to the electric grid. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Nick Chaset, welcome to the AI Energy and Climate Podcast. I've been reading about Octopus Energy for a while now, and I'm eager to learn more about what you're doing. Maybe just to start, tell us about Octopus Energy.
Very happy to be here, David. So my name is Nick Chaset. I'm the CEO of Octopus Energy US. Octopus Energy is a global energy and technology company serving electricity consumers across Europe, Asia, and the US, and licensing technology to electric utilities and retail suppliers equally in those parts of the world. Octopus started 10 years ago with the promise of being a technology company to help transform electric utilities. And our founders quickly determined that big incumbent utilities are often quite slow movers when adopting new technology. And so they decided to form Octopus Energy to be the first customer for Kraken, which is our technology platform. That business went so well that in 8 short years, it is now the largest supplier of electricity in the UK, serving 8 million households. And that business has expanded to Germany and Spain and France and Italy, Japan, New Zealand, and the US for direct retail supply. And we serve, almost 10.5 million households globally with 100% renewable energy. Very quickly, though, after the retail business grew, the incumbent retail suppliers and utilities started to realize, there's this new kid on the street who is growing so fast. Why is that happening? Well, part of it is that they have technology stack that's functional, allows the delivery of amazing customer service and integration of flexibility. And so they started asking, can we license Kraken from you? And so we said, sure. And so the Kraken business has grown massively as well, serving about 80 million customer meters around the world with large utilities in Europe, Asia, and the US. So most recently, National Grid was our newest US utility to sign up onto the Kraken service. And so we're going to be transforming their customer information system and billing system to one that can help them achieve a lot of the electrification and consumer-centric goals that they have.
So say more about what is Kraken.
Well, Kraken is a lot of things. Kraken is, I think we would say, is an iOS for energy. But the primary product that most of our customers use day in, day out is our customer information system and billing system. So what Kraken does is it brings a uniform cloud-based data infrastructure to utilities that often have a Jenga stack of different iterations of different platforms that make managing the increasing amounts of information that they're gathering from smart meters, their grid assets, electric vehicles, distributed energy resources increasingly challenging. So Kraken brings order to that, but it also creates a manner for the utilities customer teams. They're in our parlance, our energy specialists to provide just a totally differentiated level of customer service. So typically in a utility, you might have 3, 4, 5 different customer service departments. So you call about a billing issue. They say, well, we're going to talk to the different billing department. Yeah, they put you on hold for 2 minutes. At Kraken, we empower our agents to answer every question. So there is no transfer button in Kraken. And part of that is because it's a technology that allows a single agent to deal with every issue that may arise. So you can imagine that creates a lot higher degree of customer satisfaction and just also employee satisfaction, because employees feel like they can solve problems for customers when they arise.
Just to jump in, when you say agents, are those human agents or are those AI agents or both?
Today, they're human agents.
Uh-huh.
Certainly, there's a lot of AI in Kraken. So one of the things that Kraken was an early mover in the deployment of AI is a product that we call Magic Ink. So when you serve tens of millions of electricity consumers, you can imagine you get lots and lots of emails, requests, billing inquiries, service inquiries, what have you. And keeping up with those emails can be really hard. So what Magic Ink does is it ingests those emails, and it, using AI and an understanding of sort of all the past conversations, it suggests a response for the human agent to review and respond. So what allows it is it empowers agents to serve a lot more customers a lot more quickly, but it doesn't replace the human. It's the human empowered with AI to provide better customer service.
So for a household that's served by Kraken or a utility that's using Kraken, say more about how the user experience is different. So one thing is you have much better engagement with the customer or with the utility's customer service agents. How about in terms of electricity prices? Is there any difference there?
Well, in principle, yes, right? Kraken is deflationary from a cost perspective, right? So when we deploy Kraken, we consistently see pretty significant reductions in cost across the customer organization. Some of that is when you replace 5, 6, 7 different software licenses with just one that does everything. You're just going to spend less on technology. There's an efficiency gain from your workforce. So your existing agents can do more. So there are cost savings there. And then the really massive cost savings start to come in when you layer in flexibility. And when I say layering in flexibility, it is the fact that Kraken provides a single technology suite where a consumer not only can look at their bill, but also can enroll their electric vehicle in a time of use rate or participate in a virtual power plant. And it's that ability that really is most meaningful for consumers. And so I think about today in the US, even though utilities often have systems that suggest what the optimal rate for the customer is, it's not the most user-friendly experience, right? You got to log into the utility website, you got to know what you're looking for, and you have to go through multiple steps to hopefully get to the rate that might be optimal. With Kraken, a lot of that is happening in the background. Those suggestions are being made, and it's a very simple sort of consumer user experience to be able to see what those opportunities look like. And the agents have that same view. So when you call and you talk to an agent and say, hey, I want to understand what my rate options are, our agents are much more empowered to be able to provide those suggestions too. And so you can imagine what those savings can look like. If I go from being on a fixed rate to a time of use rate, and then I say, well, I'm going to shift when I charge my electric vehicle to align with the off-peak time of use period, you could be saving hundreds of dollars a month, depending on how much you charge your car.
So to get the benefit of this AI-enabled Kraken platform, it sounds like you need to work with regulators in order to get certain rate structures. Is that right? And how has that gone in different jurisdictions?
Well, so most of the Kraken deployments around the world have been deployed in deregulated markets where you don't have to go to a regulator. Retail suppliers in deregulated markets just come up with the rates that make sense for them. And so most Kraken customers are not so constrained. In the US, it's a bit of a different story because most of the US is not deregulated in that way. And so the vertically integrated utilities do have to go to the regulators and seek approval for new dynamic rates. And one of the big blockers of their ability to do that has been their technology systems that make it really challenging for them to implement anything that is truly dynamic. And so it's very common, you go into a utility rate case and a regulator says, we want you to do dynamic time of use. And the utility says, we would love to, but it's going to cost tens of millions of dollars and take multiple years to upgrade our billing system. When they move to Kraken, that is we can do it tomorrow. It's just, you tell us what you want, we can implement the new rates very quickly. But yes, I think you do need buy-in from the utility to sort of start implementing more dynamic rates. But Kraken empowers utilities to be able to actually functionally implement these dynamic rates in ways that they often haven't been able to.
And I guess this must be a reason that you started in the U.S. market in Texas, because of retail market in Texas. Is that right?
So this is where, Kraken and Octopus, they are all part of Octopus Energy Group, but they are functionally separate entities, right? So Octopus Energy US, of which I'm the CEO, is a retail supplier in Texas. And so we sell electricity to consumer, and we are a customer of Kraken's.
I see.
Kraken is a technology company that licenses to utilities, National Grid being the most recent utility to sign up for Kraken. So they are independent, but we work closely together as a user of Kraken, so providing feedback to the Kraken team around things that are and are not working, much like their other customers do as well. I would say we're probably, if anything, sort of Kraken's number one power user. And they were founded by the same founders and kind of have separated over time as the go-to-markets have shifted. But in Texas, you're right. The reason we started Octopus Energy in Texas is that is the most liberalized of the U.S. electricity markets. So key example being in Texas, Octopus Energy sends the bill to the customer, whereas in Pennsylvania, where there is some ability to choose suppliers, you're still getting the bill from the network operator utility. Mm-hmm. And that ownership of that billing experience goes a huge way to determining, how willing a customer is or isn't to try new things. Mm-hmm. And so we provide what we think is a delightful bill, easy to understand. And so Texas has given us that opportunity. And so that's where we're building our retail business today.
And do you see the potential to expand to other states in the United States with that business, or is that's going to depend upon regulatory changes in other states?
I think certainly there are some regulatory changes that would accelerate our expansion beyond Texas for retail. Mm-hmm. I think that the Texas opportunity is in and of itself massive. Mm-hmm. And, we really feel like we have a lot of work cut out for us there for retail. Now, outside of the U.S., outside of Texas, we are looking at some other models to partner with vertically integrated utilities. And these partnerships are actually with Kraken. So if you think about the majority of the US where there's not competitive retail, you have vertically integrated utilities that, first and foremost are asset managers. They go, they design, they build, and they operate infrastructure, and they make money on a return on equity on capital invested. They have historically not had to think about things in the context of customer acquisition cost or customer churn. The customers are their customers. Mm-hmm. And so they are trying to provide reliable and affordable service, but they're not thinking about a customer saying, well, I'm going to go shop for another option, or I don't want to participate in this thing anymore. That's changing in a world of high electrification in the home. So as in California, where you have millions of electric vehicles, millions of solar and storage systems, millions of connected devices around the country, when those smart devices use electricity starts to matter a heck of a lot, particularly when load is growing And there are constraints on how much capital a utility can invest due to load growth and just an inability to raise rates beyond some, kind of specific threshold approved by the regulator. And our network is by and large a low utilization network in the US. 50% utilization is, I think, would be considered a pretty good level of average utilization in a integrated utility system. Increasing utilization reduces costs, which creates investment headroom for more electrification, for data centers, for manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
And so when an electric vehicle charges, when a battery charges or discharges, can be hugely impactful on the overall cost effectiveness and reliability of the grid. But in every one of those cases, you're starting to actually have to acquire the customer. You need the customer to consent to when their to changing when their EV charges. You need a customer to consent to modulating their thermostat up or down a little bit based on price. So utilities are now facing a world where they're having to think much more like consumer companies, not infrastructure asset managers. And that's where we come in. As a partner who can work with them to think about how do they operate more like a consumer company, and then use Kraken to help implement it.
So to develop the tools that you're using to do that, to what extent do you need data from smart meters or other sources?
Smart meter data is the lifeblood of a lot of what we do in Kraken and at Octopus, right? I think in a world where you don't have smart meter data, a lot of the really smart stuff we do becomes more challenging. Now, that being said, in Germany, where we operate a large retail supply business, we have very low smart meter penetration. So we provide great customer service. We can provide, the technology still empowers our customer organization to be more nimble and efficient, but we can't do a lot of the interesting smart things around dynamic rates or managing when your EV may charge or discharge, or giving you an incentive to use air conditioning when power is cheap. You can't do that without you need smart meter data to do that. And so places where we have smart meter data empower us to do that and also feed that data into our system to make ever smarter decisions around, say, device optimization.
Are there differences in terms of access to smart meter data in the UK and the US and other countries that you've seen, or has that been part of your work?
There are, for sure. I would say Texas access to smart meter data is probably most analogous to the smart meter data access you have, say, in the UK, where you have these central clearinghouses for meter access, meter data access. And so accessing the data in Texas is relatively straightforward.
Yep.
As opposed to, say, in California, where you oftentimes have to go beyond just asking for it. You have to get consumer consent, which can be at times a bit of an onerous process. You have a lot of customer churn out of the funnel to give access to customer data. The utilities have it, but it may live in multiple databases. So sometimes it can be actually even hard for the utilities to transmit the data to us because of the nature of their core billing system. And that's a California example. And each state's going to be a slightly different version of that. But I think that's part of why we, outside of Texas, are very focused on partnering with the utility, because they have the data. So if we can partner with them effectively, we can extract the smart meter data from their systems into Kraken, and then Kraken can really start to do interesting things with that.
And Nick, you've been so much on the front lines of work in this area, and maybe just a step back, ask kind of a big picture question about AI in the power sector. AI is obviously the hot topic, getting all kinds of attention. Kind of big picture, how do you see AI transforming the power sector in the years ahead?
It's transforming it in two ways. It's transforming it, I think, first and foremost today as a massive source of demand that even 3 years ago we did not fully grapple with. I'm sure many smart people knew this was coming, but I think most of us in the industry did not sort of see the wave of AI demand. And because the revenue opportunity from compute is so much greater than the cost of energy, there's almost unlimited willingness to pay for connection capacity, and that's creating some real tension because most other uses of electricity don't have unlimited willingness to pay. And so you just saw an announcement, I believe, yesterday between Meta and Constellation that Meta, starting in 2027, is going to be the off-taker from a large nuclear power plant in Illinois. Well, consumers are now not going to benefit from that resource. What are the consequences of that? And we can't build new stuff fast enough to keep up with AI demand. So then it's going to become a sort of push-pull tension between AI demand and the sort of willingness to pay for AI compute and consumer uses, non-AI business uses. And so I think it's a somewhat short to medium term challenge, but it's something that we really have to grapple with, is like, how do we ensure that overall consumer affordability is not massively impacted? Because maybe over the medium to longer term, it actually should have a deflationary effect because you're increasing utilization and of the system in principle. But that's, I think, a big challenge. I think the other side of the AI story in energy is probably more analogous to sort of the AI story more broadly in the economy, and that is how are we using AI as energy businesses? AI does really good work when you have large amounts of somewhat unstructured information, and it helps bring order and structure to that information to make better decisions. Well, the energy sector creates a lot of information that we have historically not necessarily been able to use and make actionable. So the degree to which AI can do things like help grid operators make preventative maintenance decisions for substations and transformers, that actually should be hugely beneficial to a company like ours that uses AI to empower our agents to give outrageously better customer service. But those are, I think, uses of AI that we're going to see lots of parts of the economy, and we're just one sector of the economy that's going to be a big user of AI.
Well, terrific. We're starting to wrap up, and just wonder, anything we haven't covered that's a priority for you that you'd like to talk about, Nick?
I think the only other thing that I would say, in the sort of AI energy nexus is sort of the opportunity that we see flexibility creating for AI compute. So recent study out of Duke University found that relatively small amounts of flexibility in how and when AI data centers use energy can deliver massive cost savings. Put another way, you have 8,670 hours in a year. The main drivers of cost are the top 10, 20% of hours. If you can shift when a data center uses energy to be out of those top 20%, you could actually build a lot of capacity for compute on the network without having to build a lot of new infrastructure. Our perspective is there's a flip side of that, which is if you can align when, say, electric vehicles charge or solar and storage systems charge and discharge, you can deliver a virtual version of that flexibility for a data center. Mm-hmm. And so we think there's a huge opportunity to marry consumer flexibility with data center load growth to create a real win-win for the economy. We need to build this stuff. It's a sort of imperative for the nation, but also for consumers by sharing the benefits of that flexibility with provision with them, and then limiting the overall infrastructure spend.
Well, Nick, we're closing each episode of this podcast with two questions for our guests. And the first question is, how are you using AI in your day-to-day life?
Well, I have to admit, I'm still learning to effectively use the tools. So, other than for the silly searches that my kids like to do with me, like let's rap battle with ChatGPT. I am actually starting to train an instance of GPT with a lot of my writings and talks. So that it understands sort of my thought process and kind of my tone to help me actually edit work that I do.
Rap battles is something I haven't heard before, by the way. So that's interesting. ChatGPT is back and forth doing.
Oh, very good. I mean, you can really go back and forth with you. That is, I will say, as much a use case for my 12-year-old as anything, but I do sometimes.
I love it. And then our final question: could you recommend 3 books, reports, or articles to our listeners? Could be anything, classic from your childhood or something you read yesterday.
So we're just now reading the book The Outsiders with my kids, and we got into it with it's on Broadway at the moment, but it's a classic book. So that's a book I would recommend. I would be remiss if I didn't think about a report, energy related report. So the Center for Net Zero is a UK-based think tank that just released a really interesting report on price signals impact on charging behavior for level 3 chargers across the UK. So it was the largest study that's ever been conducted, over 100,000 participants, and it found that a 40% change in pricing, what we call plunge pricing events, can double the consumption of level 3 charging during those events. So you can think about what the massive consequences for shifting behavior from high to low cost periods. So that's my energy. That's my energy article as my requisite. And the third is just an enjoyable book that I'm reading called Slow Horses. So I work for a UK company, and so it's a fun spy series set in London. So it's nice to read something that kind of gives me landmarks when I spend time over there.
Great recommendation. Nick Chaset of Octopus Energy, thanks so much for joining us on the AI Energy and Climate Podcast.
Thank you.